Welcome back to Firefly Studios. My name is Kadia, and today we are going to continue with our Unity fundamentals, this time going into our life system. I'm recording two videos at once, so you might see some stuff from the next life system video, which has to do with hearts, similar to Minecraft style, but you can just ignore those for now. Alright, so right into it. The way we're going to set this up is when you press a button, you take damage, and your life is displayed in this text element. I will be using a TMP Pro text element, which is everyone has access to it. You just have to, when you create a UI text, you have to select Text Message Pro option. Alrighty, so I went ahead and created a canvas and added a Text Message Pro, and I just named it Life, and then I created a global object and attached my scripts to it. So let's go into the life system script. It's pretty straightforward. I've got the first thing of note is we have to add in the usings TMP Pro. The reason for that is in order to access UI elements of TMP, you need to import their library. So we added that. That's this line right here on line 4. Then I went ahead and added a property that holds our current life total, and then a float that holds our starting life total. We also have a reference to our text object. That's our TMP underscore text. All right, at the beginning, we set our life total equal to our starting life. Just initialize it. We call our update UI function, which will update the UI to reflect what our starting life is. For now, we can ignore that. We'll come back to that. Then here's the meat of it, our take damage function. So this is a function that requires an integer of damage. You could make this a float if you want a player to be able to take partial damage, like say an attack does 2.5 damage to you. I'm keeping things simple. We're just dealing with whole numbers here. Then we just do some basic math. We take our current life and we set that equal to our current life minus the damage that we take. So if we start off with 10 life, it would be 10 minus, let's say we're doing 1 damage, 10 minus 1, which is 9. And then the next time this is called, our current life is 9 now, so 9 minus 1 is 8, and so on and so forth. We then update our UI once we have our life total what we want it to be. And then we check to see if we have less than or equal to 0 life, we die. And the reason why we have the less than sign there is, what if you're at 1 life and someone swings at you and they hit you for like 5 damage? If it just said equal to 0, you wouldn't die there technically, because -4 is not equal to 0. Then we just call our die function. And then here what we do is, this is where you can put stuff like your animation, particles, sound, what have you. Here I'm just destroying the game object, which will disable our life system, since this is referring to the global object with our life scripts on it. Then we've got our update UI function. This is how you get the UI to represent it. So we've got our text object, our TMP text object, and then we're accessing the text property of it. What that means is we're accessing this window right here. So we'll type in something here, which is going to be our life total.toString. So this will convert our life total number, which in our case will be calculated after we take damage, and then putting that on our display. Now, one thing you can do is, let's say we do, let's do this. Let's do life colon plus life total toString. So that way we'll actually see the words life before our number. And then I went ahead and set up a system script here, which just allows us to deal damage. This is how you would interact with this public take damage function. So in my case, I made it so when I press a button, the take damage is called, but in an actual game, it would be called when you do things such as collide with an enemy or a spike or something like that. The way I set this up is, this would be the same in both cases. You'd have an integer, public variable. It could be private, depends on if you want things to be able to augment a character's damage for our damage. And then in my case, I just have a reference to our life system script and are directly addressing it. Most likely you might see it in something like this. On trigger enter 2D, here's just an example. You would say if collision dot compare tag is a player. So this is asking, did we hit a player? If so, we would go collision, which is the thing we hit, in our case a player, dot get component life system text dot take damage. So this would be an example of how you might use it in a game. So you check to see if you collided with something. This might be on like a projectile or maybe a melee weapon, something like that. And it says, did we hit the player? If we hit the player, we're going to look for its health script, and then we're going to make it take damage equal to our damage. That's effectively what I'm doing here, except rather than handling it with collisions or anything, I am just doing it with directly just hitting a button to cause it to happen. So let's see what that looks like. Let me just double check. Alpha 3 is the one that I want, which is the 3 key on my keyboard. So I'm going to hit play. It doesn't matter what I type there. It should automatically update because we update the UI in the start function. Then I'm going to press 3. And right now I have it set up so our damage is 2. So we take 2 damage. I'm going to keep pressing it. And then notice how that disappeared from the inspector. That's because it destroyed itself. We died correctly. I hope you found this video interesting. Please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons. And I'll see you in the next one where I go over how to set up a heart system like Minecraft.